Welcome to the High Achievers Job Search Playbook. I'm so excited you're here. We're going to cover a lot today. I've got lots of notes. If you ever see me looking down, that's what I'm referring to because I want to make sure that I pack as much as possible into the time we have. And for those of you who are here live, I know some people signed up, they plan on watching the replay, which is great. But one of the benefits of showing up live is we have Q&A at the end, and you get to influence where the conversation goes. So if there's anything that we absolutely must get to in today's call, something that you really want to make sure we cover, go ahead and put that in the comments. And I will make sure to weave that in. Just tell me, what do you most want from class today? And while you do that, you are in the right place if you are actively job searching. This is helpful even if you're not actively job searching, but this is especially for those who have, the fire in their belly. They're ready to lock in, is as Dr. Davia said. And maybe you're trying the old tactics, you feel like you're being consistent, you're watching the YouTube videos, you're connected to all the coaches on LinkedIn, you're doing the tips, and for some reason, right, you still feel like you're spinning your wheels. I think tactics are great, structure is great, but we're going to talk about a lot more than that today. Let's see. Deanna says job search inspiration. Love it. So good. I'm here for the inspo too. In Find Your Job Joy, sometimes people will come to the calls and they'll be like, I don't have a question. I'm just here for the inspo. I'm here for the good vibes. And that's totally fine. Let's see. Angela, understand the current job search strategy that works. Okay, that is perfect. That is exactly the point. That was next what I was going to say. You're in the right place if you want to understand what's currently working and kind of get out of those outdated or cliche tips, right? It's not just as simple as get your resume out more and network more, right? It's more detailed than that. So, what I want you to know, what I want you to take away today, and what I will probably repeat is that as tough as it is, the current market is not impossible, but it is different. Right. So if you have the right strategy, you have the right support, you're being consistent, you're refining as you go, then you absolutely can land a job right now. And my clients are still landing jobs regardless of everything we see in the news. Let's see. Jen says 22 years with one company, so haven't been on the external job market for a while and want to understand the best strategy. Yes, exactly. Perfect. Which, by the way, even if you were job searching 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 1 year ago, right, it is constantly shifting. So even if you have job search more recently, this is a good place to be. So let me give you an overview of what we're going to talk about today. First, we'll talk about what's working, what's not working. I will go over the playbook. If you've come to my classes before, or if you've been in my programs, right, it's a adapted form of the three C's of clarity, campaign, connection, but really adapted to this market. And, most job search advice that you see out there, it's focusing on tactics, right? And there's nothing wrong with tactics. We need tactics, we need that structure. But that's not what's actually making the difference right now. Tactics are table stakes, right? Um, Table stakes meaning like they're the basic. Everybody has to do that just to get your foot in the door. So we're going to talk about, it's also about, on top of the tactics, ways of showing up. How are you tailoring your message? How are you differentiating yourself in this market? And as I go through the three pieces of the playbook, I'm going to give you some examples. So it's not just me talking at you or giving you tips, but actually showing you how it's worked in practice for my clients who are landing jobs. Then I will share, for those of you who are interested, how we can work together. And I always love to offer special bonuses and discounts for those of you who come to class because, it's showing that you have that initiative, you have that drive, which tells me you're going to be even more successful in the program. And so I will have that for you for those who are interested. And then we will have time for some open Q&A. And, I would treat this like free coaching. So I would definitely stay until the end if you can. So, a couple of housekeeping things. I really invite you to be present. You don't know what one comment, question, tip is going to make the difference for you. This is an investment in yourself, right? It might be free, but this is an investment in your time. You're here on a Friday, at lunchtime, or for my West Coasters, late morning. And I really want you to get the most out of it. This is also an example of how you show up, right? How you show up in job search, Learning, right, is how you show up in your job search. So, really being present. I encourage you to engage. When something makes sense, tell me yes in the comments. If you have a question, ask me in the comments. I'll do my best to keep up. So, ask your questions and also do your best, no distractions. Right. So like let's not, I know we all multitask. Like let's not scroll Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is, right? Really decide, give yourself the gift of fully being here. Do you guys agree with me? Tell me yes in the comments. The first test to see if we're all here. Okay, I've got thumbs up and I've got yeses. Okay, beautiful. Yes, beautiful. So, landing a great role right now, it's not about waiting for the market to improve. How many years have we been talking about we're going to wait for the economy to get better, or the market to get better? There's always something for like the past 6 years. Let's be real, right? So we can't wait, right? It's about how you position yourself and how you show up. When you lock in, this is a very winnable game. I want you to like hear that because sometimes when we feel hopeless, it feels tough. We see the headlines, right? We have everyone telling us, well, it's hard and blah, blah, blah. And so and so's been out of work for however. This is a winnable game with the right strategy. Arguably, there's a lot of opportunity here because things have shifted so fast. And so, yes, I do want to validate it's a really tough market, probably one of the toughest markets that I remember, even, doing this work for over a decade. It's the economy. There's, employers don't trust candidates. Candidates don't trust employers, right? There's been layoffs. Then we have the whole AI mixing into this, right? So we have the political climate, right? There's a lot out there that makes this job market super difficult, super challenging. Yes. And have the rules changed? Yes. But for those with the right strategy and follow through, this is actually an opportunity because while everyone else is spinning their wheels on the old strategies or, trying to use AI to do their entire job search for them, right? Then they end up looking like everyone else who's used AI to do their job search for them. And believe me, AI has a place. Absolutely. AI is taking notes for us right now. Fantastic. Right? But it can't substitute who you are, your essence, your experience, your energy, your unique story, and the way that you're showing up, not just in the words, not just on what we see online, but what people feel from you, right? And so I'm curious, what are you spending most of your time in your job search? Tell me in the comments, where is most of your job search time going? And while you tell me that, what I will say is what I'm seeing is that most people are focused on, the logical things. They're applying, they're probably spending way too much time tailoring everything for every job. They're, continually refining LinkedIn, their resume, their networking. It's like a numbers game. They'll tell me, Kristen, I've had 5 coffees today, 5 coffees this week, right? And none of that is wrong, but it's also not enough. And we also have less room for error. So in the comments, what people are doing networking, okay, that's fantastic. We just want to make sure, we'll talk about this later, want to make sure that you're getting the most out of that. Pooch resourcing, looking for job openings, too much tailoring time. I hear you, right? Too much tailoring time. You do all this, you could spend 3, 4 hours tailoring, and for a job that you're applying to that they've already decided who has the job. So many jobs that are posted, right? They're not even actually available. But that could be a whole nother class. Research, resume, cover letters, too much time spent tailoring, says Angela too, connecting with contacts, updating resume for ATS, tailoring for each job, network tailoring, finding relevant opportunities, especially with hundreds of people applying, sometimes more, Kevin, right? Um, we want to find the opportunities that everyone else can't find. Right. I'm seeing like, how I said, this is a market that if you have the right strategy, it can actually be an opportunity to stand out. And you guys are probably seeing that with finances and investment. By the time the investment tip hits TikTok, you're no longer going to make money off of it. Right. And it's kind of like in the job search, by the time it hits the job board, your odds of landing that job have dramatically decreased. You guys following me? I know it's a little bit of a weird analogy, but so I feel you, Kevin. Amy, focusing on finding top 10 companies. I love that's a good start. Jen, searching for contact info, hiring managers. Peggy's just getting started, so re-engaging with recruiters, non LinkedIn. Agree, too much tailoring. Yes, none of these activities in and of themselves are wrong, and none of them am I telling you not to do. I want to be really clear. It's important to have a structure. It's important to be able to know what we're doing every day, to focus on the highest ROI activities, which that would be one thing I would say we should talk about which of these activities, right, are actually the ones that are going to land you the job. Applying to a bunch of jobs on boards is probably not going to be the case. Especially if you're like most of my clients who are well into six figures, they're mid-level or above, right? These are not entry-level positions that, are going to be sourced through a job board most likely. Um, and so the key here, the kind of disrupting this current thinking of I just need to focus on these tactics, is that hiring managers are not moving you forward because you're qualified. Everything we're talking about here, right? The applying and the tailoring and the resume and the LinkedIn, right? It's to show we're qualified. That's not enough anymore. They move you forward because they are confident. They know, see, believe what they need to know about you to be confident that you will be successful in this role. So it's not just qualified, right? It's we need to make it abundantly clear. It is our responsibility as job seekers to make it really obvious why why and how you would be successful in this role. And we're in this strange place where, in the past you wanted to stand out and be totally different. Now we have to find the balance between showing we're a safe hire. I can do everything in this job description. This is the place I want to be in the long run, right? I'm not going to count this as an interim job and leave in 6 months, right? You want to show that you're safe, but you also want to show how you have long-term potential, how you are differentiated, making yourself memorable so that you do stand out from everybody else who's prepped with ChatGPT the night before as well. Right? And again, none of these things are wrong, but they don't help you stand out. And so in the playbook, which I'm going to share, right, this is how you make sure that they feel that they know that, and not just in what you say, right, but in what they feel when they feel the confidence when they're speaking to you, whether it's on the phone or whether they see you or whether it's in person. And we can't leave this to chance, right? So many times we're taking action, but because it's not, um, what's the word I want to say? Because it's not refined, because it's not targeted, because it's not super intentional, we're just kind of going through the motions. Okay, I'm going to have coffee. I'm going to tell them I'm looking for an opportunity. I'm going to apply. I'm going to sit on my couch and apply to 5 jobs today, right? Because it doesn't have that intention and that precision. That's the word I want. We're doing these activities, but we're not getting the most from them. Does that make sense? Because if we, for example, right, if we have a conversation with someone and it's really nice and they, feel bad for us and they say they'll keep an eye out, but if we haven't made it really easy for them to help us, right, with what we talk about, how we talk about it, all of that, right, then it's just a nice feel good conversation that's not going to go anywhere. And that's what I want you to every interaction you have, every action you take, I want you to be maximizing it, which is why we need this precision now more than ever, more than even 5 months ago, frankly. So let's talk about the playbook. You guys ready for the playbook? Yeah. Okay, I'm keeping you awake. Type playbook in the comments. So the playbook, we're going to do an overview of the basics. I go into much more detail with my clients and find your job. Do I see playbook, playbook, playbook? Okay, awesome. We're here. I'm going to do an overview. With the work that I do with my clients, we're tailoring it to your specific situation, your personality, your timeline. So everything I talk about, keep in mind that you want it to be 100% tailored to you because another piece of this, again, we're going beyond tactics to your energy, to your authenticity so that you can stand out. And the first part of the playbook, some of you might recognize this, we always start with clarity, right? And you've heard me say before, if we've connected at all for, any time in the past 10 years I've been coaching, your career has to support your life, not the other way around. So many of us, right, we graduate school, we kind of get caught up in the momentum. We just need to get the promotion, we need to make more money. And all of a sudden we wake up and we're like, where am I? I don't even like this job. Why am I here? And now I'm stuck. And what else am I going to do? Anyone resonate with that? Yeah. Yeah, it's a terrible place to be, right? And especially now, most of my clients were mid 30s into our 40s, if not older. We're at midlife. Let's be real. We're at midlife. And the beautiful thing about this time of life is that we have significant experience. We're not babies. We know what we want. We know who we are, right? But we also have plenty of work time ahead of us. We have that younger energy. So we're at this really beautiful point in our careers. And midlife is often a time where the season of our life changes, our values change, right? The reality is that, since 2020, so much has changed for us. I'm really curious. Tell me in the comments what's changed for you for what you want in your work since 2020. Give me one or two things. What has changed, right? I've seen my clients, they want more flexibility. They got used to working from home some. They value, the ability, whether or not they're working from home, they value the ability to have more time with their family, even happy to trade income for that, for example. So many of us are in a different season. Maybe we just had kids and now we have young kids at home. Maybe our kids have grown up and they're going to school and we want to kind of put the accelerator on our career again, right? Depending on where we are in the rest of our life, right? It is a season which reflects different values, which means what we want from our career and the job that's going to support us and keep us fulfilled and where we're going to have the most impact and be the most successful, that changes, right? Let's see. I'm loving these comments here. So Angela says true flexibility is something she wants now. More flexibility, says Putri. Sylvia, flexibility most important. I'm seeing a theme here. Vibe is just as important as salary. I'm so glad you said that because it's so true. And guys, I might not use the word vibe. In my mind, I am, right? But your energy, right? Your essence, what people feel from you beyond just what is on your resume, that is going to help you land the job. That's why I want you to, when you're doing this clarity work, choose something that you actually want, that is authentic to you, not just that you think is your only option. Let's see, Anne. Oh, hi, Anne. Boundaries between work and home, greater structure. Liz, work from anywhere. Deanna, more time with family and work culture. Yes, vibe is so important and more flexibility. Seeing some trends here, right? And so, we want to make sure because if you launch a job search and you're spinning your wheels, many times it's because you're kind of going, you're applying to anything that you could, arguably fit the qualifications for. It could be that you're like, I could do a lot of things. So you kind of have like three different resumes for three different career paths. It could also be that you're following the career path that you think you're stuck with and that you don't really want. I've had people who have come to me and they've said, Kristen, I've been job searching for so long, blah, blah, blah. And when we really get down to it, this is the scary part. They don't want the job they've been going after this whole time. And so that's one reason they haven't been getting it, right? And so that's another reason we want to start with clarity. And in addition to that, your entire search, the way that I teach a job search, which we're going to talk about campaign in a second, your entire search is based on clarity. That is our target. That is our North Star. Hire me for XYZ job. If you are not clear on that in casual conversations, in networking conversations, in interviews, if you're not clear on that and everything else that supports that, that is going to be felt. Right? Even if you think you're clear, right? If you can't say, I've had people tell me they have applied to hundreds of jobs. And then when I say, what are you looking for? They can't say it in a sentence or two, right? Or they tell me, well, it's kind of this or that or this. If you have to clearly articulate it based on who you're talking to. So if you are unclear in your job search, every single part of the search process is more difficult and longer. You might fall into something, absolutely, right? But you're making it more difficult. Resumes, conversations, interviews. And an example I love here is I have a client, Jenny, and Jenny took a break from the corporate world. She's in communications. Her specialty was internal communications. She took a break around the pandemic, and it wasn't a break. She took a break from corporate to launch her own business. She actually did career coaching. She was a career coach. She launched her own business, and she did that for several years. And when we started working together, she wanted to go back into a traditional corporate role, but she wanted a promotion, and now she didn't want to just do internal comms. She wanted to do external too, so that she could, expand her career. And so we first had to get clear on, was this what she really wanted, or was it like, oh, the business isn't doing well, I need to get a job, right? Because if our energy is not aligned with what we're going after, we're going to stop ourselves from getting it. The unconscious is so strong, and again, that could be like an entirely entirely other class. But we need to make sure we're going after what you actually want and what will fit with your life. And then, we looked at the reality. What were the gaps? So clarity on what are the perceived gaps between the job she wants and where she is now. Can you guys guess what the gap might be? Why would an employer hesitate to hire her, even though she has all this great internal communications experience? I'm asking you this because this is a really important skill to put ourselves in the shoes of a hiring manager. Why would someone hesitate to hire Jenny? Yeah, she could leave at any time. Maybe she's really running her business in the background. Does she really want to be here? Is this a last resort? She hasn't been in the corporate world for so long. Can she handle it? Can she handle the demands after working for herself? After working for herself, could she work for a boss? Right? There is the gap, translating the value and experience. Yes, 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 right? And so we had to look at that gap, and it's a perception. We had to look at that perceived gap and show how it actually was a benefit. Because she took this time and she was moving into a higher leadership role, now she had the mentoring, she had the coaching ability. She did do a little consulting work, so we were able to expand upon that with the communications. We were able to show how in her business, communications was actually a part of that. There were definitely translatable skills. And so when she was clear on what she wanted, when she was clear on what employers might see as a gap and how she could fill that gap, that led to better positioning. Not just better positioning, but allowing her to stand out amongst people who just had a regular internal or external communications background. Right. So we turned that potential negative into a positive. She landed a senior leadership role, and get this, guys, 4.5 months, right? Unheard of in this market. Super coveted spot. She got a promotion out of it. She gets to do internal, external. She also oversees another team, and she has visibility. She is regularly talking to CEOs. So, all of this to say, right, a big piece of it was the clarity, and the clarity was the foundation for step number two in the job search playbook, which is campaign, right? If you've heard me talk before, I say job search is a marketing campaign, right? You have to be clear on who is the role, what is the audience, right? The audience is the hiring manager, recruiters, anyone who's making decisions, right? You are now in marketing. Okay, everyone who's looking for a job, you hear me? Yes, we're all now in marketing. The good news is that the product you're selling, no one knows better than you. How great is that? Right? And so it's just a matter of, how do we position that? How do we package that? I want to be really clear. Your value is not the problem. Anyone who would take time on a Friday to come and learn to be more effective in job search or anything, anyone who's here, I know you're into personal development. I know you're into doing better for yourself, right? I know you don't have a problem with your value, right? But it's how clearly you communicate it, how clearly you use the words that the people you're talking to need to hear to know, see, and believe, right, that you're going to be great at this job and that you're a long-term investment, right? Your personal brand is your perception, and it's 100% under your control, maybe 99%, right? But for most of us, it's 100% under your control. And your career story, this is the foundation of your personal brand. We do this before we even look at LinkedIn and resumes. Your career story is how you connect the dots of your experience, of your past, of everything, of your passions, of your unique perspective, how you connect those dots to show why you'd be a perfect fit for whatever job you're going after. Do you see why clarity is so important and why we can't keep moving the target? Because then you're never going to have a clear story and you're never going to really become an expert at telling that story, right? Hiring managers don't have the time and they don't have the interest in figuring out why they should continue to talk to you or why you would be good in the role. That's just the reality, right? Especially when they're getting all these resumes. They're overwhelmed, right? Just as much as you guys don't like job search, they don't like, hiring managers don't like the process of finding a right candidate. It's a lot of work, right? And so it's your responsibility to make that obvious, right? Your story, your brand, what I call your campaign, it's what how you talk about yourself in person, what people find online, not just your LinkedIn profile, but what you post, anything else out there, how you teach others to speak about you. In Job Joy, we talk a lot about having our stories, having our sound bites, right? If you were doing a political campaign or if you were doing a book tour, right, and people were interviewing you and you were on TV, your coach, your PR coach would probably tell you you need to have some sound bites. Why are sound bites so important? Anyone know? Why do we need to have a sound bite, right? You should hire Kevin for XYZ because blah, blah, blah. He has this bad consistency in messaging. It's like an elevator pitch, but it's a sound bite that you repeat and that is easily repeatable and that makes you memorable, right? So that you don't sound like everybody else in every other interview because when they've interviewed 10 people, they all kind of go together and what? Like no one remembers anything. So they're going to remember your energy, they're going to remember how you felt, they're going to remember your specific stories that you tell and the sound bites that you repeat, right? Like something that I've been repeating here because I want it to get in, right? The market is not impossible. You can land a job now, you just need the right strategy, right? Hype squad is necessary. Yes. Stay in people's memory. Exactly, Deanna. Repeatable in messaging comes across more confident in how you say it. Yes. And the more you say it, the more confident you become in it. Absolutely. And so you have to be able to explain what you do, the impact you have, and why it matters in a way that somebody can hear, right? So we're using words that they can hear. We're speaking to the things that are most important to them, right? And in a way that they actually remember. And this is something I had to do when I changed careers. I kind of skipped over, I didn't do a little bio at the beginning because I'm assuming that most of you know me pretty well. But the way that I actually got into career job search executive coaching was through my own career change when I had spent, over a decade in finance, over 9 years in restructuring financial consulting, and I wanted to all of a sudden go into the retail industry and do marketing and strategy and customer experience, complete 180, right? And in order to land that job, in order to execute that pivot, really a complete career change, I had to look at my campaign. I had to treat my job search like a rebrand, right? Totally like a rebrand. And so, the example for those of you, you might have read this in an email or in a post, right? I told you that I landed this job because I made a connection. I went to the National Retail Federation Conference. So, again, put yourself in the right rooms. But before I even went, I knew my personal brand. I was very clear what I wanted. I wanted strategy, marketing, customer experience. I had target companies. I knew how I was explaining because coming from a consulting background, right, that is something a hiring manager might pause on. So I was very clear on being able to explain why my consulting background was actually a benefit and how even though I didn't have a lot of retail experience, I had like maybe one 6-month client who was in retail the entire 10 years, but I was able to show how experience in other industries would actually help me bring the best of the best. I had a wider scope. I saw more, so I was able to bring that to the retail space. And so having clarity around what I was going for, having a strong personal brand, being in the right rooms, I was able to make a connection at this conference I knew what to say. I knew how to explain what I was looking for. And I ended up being connected to a hiring manager and ultimately landing a job before it was even posted. You know how we were talking about at the beginning, applying to all these jobs and needing to find the jobs because hundreds of people are posting. And then, you feel really lucky if you apply within the first 10 hours of it being live. You guys know what I'm talking about? Even if you apply that fast, many times the job is already accounted for. Right. And this is an example, but it happens all the time. My clients tell me all the time, and on both sides, because I have executive clients who are in the other spot. They're the ones hiring. And they tell me, yeah, we need to post it. HR makes us post it. And yeah, maybe I'll interview a couple people, but I already know who I want. That's why you have to have the clarity and the brand. And then what we're going to talk about next, getting to the connection so that you have the in before it's even posted. And this is especially true in this market where trust on both sides is so low. So this leads to the third C, right? We've got clarity, we've got campaign, and we've got connection. Now, I want you to hear me when I say this. This is going to shock some of you. Most likely, you don't need more conversations, but you need better ones with the right people, and you need to be making the most of those conversations. If you're going to do, I don't think I've ever met anyone who said, Kristen, I love networking. Does anyone here love networking? Tell me in the comments. Give me a yes or no, just so I know. Nini says no. Okay, we've got some no's, no's. Angela, Amy, Deanna, no. I have, oh wow, I got a hell no. Ew, no, no. And listen, I would love, if you do love networking, please say yes in the comments. But I haven't met anyone who told me they were excited about it, right? And it's one of those things that is really necessary to do. But if you're going to hype yourself up to network, wouldn't you rather do less of it, but make the conversations that you have matter more? Because have you ever felt like networking was a waste of time? Right? You get off the call, you're like, what was that? Or you get off the call and you're hopeful and then nothing comes of it. Let's see, Kevin, I enjoy one-on-one conversations, but not bigger networking events. Me too. Are you a introvert, Kevin? I'm an introvert. I'm a one-on-one deep connection person. But that's actually one way that I hype myself up to network. I don't think of it as networking. I think of it as connecting, right? But when you're looking for a job, when that is your main goal, you have to be really intentional. You have to be really precise, right? And so it's not about networking more, right? There is a little bit of, we say it's a numbers game. It's partially a numbers game, right? Because, if you're only shooting, one shot a week, right, then the odds of you landing the job are lower. So it's partly a numbers game, but we want to be really strategic, really intentional. We're not having conversations just to check the box and to tell Kristen, yeah, Kristen, I went to, I had 5 networking conversations this week, right? I want you to get the most out of every conversation so that you can have less. And there's so many reasons to network. Of course, we want you to find out about opportunities before they're posted. That's one of the top ones. We want to build trust. I want you practicing your story, right? I want you to get really good. So by the time you're in the interview, you have perfected this, right? And you're not nervous at all. You don't feel like you have to memorize a script, right? And I just want to make sure that you're not wasting any opportunities. A lot of people are tapping their network immediately when they start looking for a job, and they have people who are so connected. But when the conversation is bland, unmemorable, and hey, I just need help, that's not helping your contact help you. Right. And so in JobJoy, we have an exact structure. I teach my clients how to have a structured conversation in leadership where they actually have an agenda, even if it's only a 20-minute conversation, so that you're keeping it on target. You're getting to share your story, the important things. They don't take over. Ever have a networking conversation? They just talk for the whole hour. And by the end, you're like, what was this? Right. And so you want to make sure you're talking with the right people, you're getting the right things out, and you're making it easy for them to help you, right? Most people having conversations, it doesn't move much forward. A great conversation isn't just about asking for help in a blanket way. It's about making it easy for them to see where you fit making it easy for them to help you. And a perfect example of a, rock star relationship queen is Lene. Some of you here, I know at least one of you here knows her. Actually, a couple of you here know her. Um, During her time in Find Your Job, Joy, she landed two jobs. So she was coming from a layoff. She had a lot of personal things going on. She also was making a pivot. She was choosing to go back to accounting after spending time in finance and strategy. So it was a bit of a pivot, right? She was kind of picking herself up by the bootstraps, and she landed an interim controller role, which was meant to go long term. Even in that role, she was building relationships. She got that through a person. And when that interim role didn't work out, I don't think she was job searching for even 6 weeks before she landed the next role, which was a full-time permanent controller role. So she leveraged that interim role, right, to show, oh, I can already do it, right? But the key here, yes, she was clear on what she wanted. She was super clear. But number two, she had a campaign built totally around it. She had her personal brand, and people knew, liked, and trusted her. She had friends to call. She had people to vouch for her. Even the CEO of the company that she left, vouched for her. And so it's about the momentum coming from having the right conversations at the right time. So the way the playbook works together, we have clarity, campaign, connection. When you have clarity, your positioning is stronger and you get better at showing it. Because if you're not changing, if it's not a moving target and you're not changing what you're looking for, right, every 5 minutes or every 2 weeks, or I've been trying this for a month and I haven't landed the job, so I better look for something else or something below me, right? We can feel that frenetic energy, right? When we keep switching, right? We never get really good at telling our story. We never get really good at, presenting ourselves and positioning our brand, right? So when you have clarity, you get a stronger positioning. When you're positioning, your campaign is strong, conversations are easier. You know who to talk to and you know what to say. How many times you get on a networking call and it's like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to say. Tell me about yourself. That's the scariest question, right? I want that to be so easy that it's just like if I said, where did you grow up, right? You wouldn't be thinking hard about it. It just comes out, but you're doing it in an intentional way, sharing what the person in front of you needs to hear, right, in order to move you forward. And when your conversations are more effective, your job search accelerates and you find out about the jobs before they're posted, right? Or even if it's posted at the same time you find out about it, you have someone who's putting your resume at the top of the pile, right? We can't even count on, sorry if we have any HR people here, but we can't even count on HR to get the right resumes at the top of the pile because they're overwhelmed. They have so many coming in and you're not the only, this isn't the only job that they're going for. So you've got to have someone on the inside. So it's not just about going through the motions of what we're talking about, but it's about, so yes, I need you to be consistent. Yes, we're working on clarity. Then we move to our campaign. Then we're showing up every day in our search, right? And my clients know exactly what to do every day, whether they have 20 minutes or 2 hours. But it's not just going through the motions and checking off a checklist. Your energy and your alignment have to be there. Do you guys know what I mean when I say your energy and your alignment? People have to feel like this is actually a job you want. People have to feel like you actually want to be in this conversation, right? If you have any baggage from the last job, right, or baggage from the job search, that has to be left at the door when you have the conversation. Because even if people don't say it out loud, even if people don't articulate it in their own brain, they can feel that energy shift, right? They can feel when you're not confident. They can feel when you don't want to be there. They can feel when you're going through the motions, right? And in this world where, in this market where everybody is qualified, you have to do something to stand out, which is your unique story, which is not copyable, right? Your personal brand, how you continue to show up, how you continue to refine. And it's also your energy and your alignment. Walking into the room, walking into the conversation, walking into the interview as the person who already has the job, who knows they belong there. Are you guys with me? You know the difference, right? Did you ever have something happen and you just knew you were going to get it? right? And then you did. It was just like, where did that confidence come from? That many times happens when we're younger, because we don't have, life hasn't kicked us down quite yet. So we feel more confident. But I want you walking in the room as the woman, as the man who belongs there, who already has the job, right? And then everything else, the words are important, the scripts are important, the way that you position yourself is important. But when you have the right energy, the words actually matter less, right? You guys have seen those studies that they show communication, like most of it isn't even verbal, most of it is nonverbal. It's what we see, it's what we feel from someone, right? And so, we covered a lot today. I talked fast, which is why we have the replay. But understanding all of this is one thing, right? Applying it consistently, believing in yourself, even in the face of rejection, right? Showing up consistently as your most confident, as your most authentic self who knows they deserve to be there, right? Even in the middle of a job search that at times can feel hopeless. That is something else entirely, right? It's not just understanding, but it's how do we embody? How do we continue to show up? How do we refine and get better, right? That's where most people get stuck. And that's exactly what I help my clients do in Find Your Job Joy. This is a program that gives you the strategy, it gives you the structure, it gives you the accountability, and it gives you the support to implement everything we talked about, right? Which I had to talk about it at a high level, right? Can't tailor everybody here, but it's the support to implement everything we talked about today tailored to you, to your unique situation. Are you pivoting? Are you changing? Are you looking for a promotion? What is your timeline? Did you have a layoff? Are you currently employed, right? Whatever your current situation is. And so Find Your Job Joy, it includes a lot. It includes my signature job search course with laser focused trainings on every single part of the job search. So we have clarity, we have an entire module on career story, of course, all your campaign assets, LinkedIn, resume, cover letters, etc. Even we even have a workshop on what to post on LinkedIn. Ever have someone tell you should post on LinkedIn? Right? Because it gets you more visible to all these new connections you're making. But it's like, what do I post? What do I say? Yes, Sylvia gets it. I have an entire workshop so you know what to post, what to say, how to structure the post, right? Then we talk about challenges that come up in the job search, whether you have 20 minutes a day or you're full-time job searching, you're doing more like 3 to 4 hours, what exactly you should be doing every day. Hint, it's not random coffee conversations and it's not just applying to jobs, right? But what should you be doing every day, on the highest ROI activities with the time you have? Then, of course, how to choose between jobs. Many times you get this system going so that, I would say over half of my clients will get multiple offers when they get to that phase. So, how do you choose between jobs? That's a problem I want you to have. How do you decline gracefully if you get through and you realize, hey, this isn't for me? And then how do you negotiate top dollar, right? Which, by the way, the negotiation is not just when you watch the negotiation video and you got the offer. The negotiation starts with clarity in your personal brand. You are positioning yourself as a higher value candidate before they even talk to you. You guys following me? That is why the personal brand, why your campaign is so important. Starts the negotiation, where they see you, what they think they can get you for. That starts way before you've even had a conversation with anyone. And then there's an entire section in the course about how to get off on the right foot in your new role. Because what's the point of landing a new job, right? If you're not set up for success. So that is just the course. We do weekly small group coaching calls. It's a really intimate group. Everybody has plenty of time to talk, laser coaching, and you will find, kind of like we were talking about here, you also come for the vibes and just the positive learning that you get from other people's questions. We do 3 of those a month. And then unlimited support in between. You're never waiting for a call in order to get your question answered and to move on in your search. So, with that, we have a private group where you can ask unlimited questions, feedback. Literally, you can be in there multiple times a day. And I celebrate that. I'm not putting a limit on it. I've worked with coaches myself where they told us, could only ask like, I don't know, 5 questions and it was 1 week a month. What? This is unlimited. And then you will also have a kickoff call when you sign up. We're going to have a private one-on-one kickoff call so I can make sure you have a lay of the land and that you have your personalized plan based on your situation, even your personality, your timeline, your sense of urgency, etc. So all of that is included in Find Your Job Joy, and that is the core. And then for those of you who want more dedicated one-on-one time, even more personal support, there's a VIP level, and that's everything we just talked about, plus 9 additional coaching sessions where we get to go deeper. Any challenges, mindset, we get to practice, we get to role play, right? We get to really refine your story so that you feel your most confident. This is really the fastest, most supportive way to go through the process. And it's also the most popular option. So, the investment normally it's 5,500 for core, 7,000 for VIP. For those of you who signed up for this class, I'm offering 500 off. So that would mean 5,000 for core or 6,500 for VIP. There are payment plans. And like I said, most clients do choose the VIP because of that extra level of support and dedicated one-on-one time. Um, what else do I want to tell you? Bonuses. So, in addition to the $500 discount, you will get the LinkedIn challenge. The LinkedIn challenge, there is a LinkedIn class, of course, in Find Your Job Joy, but the LinkedIn challenge goes through it bit by bit. So, in 5 days, you can completely revamp your profile, just doing a little bit a day. You'll also get a networking challenge. That is one of the no one here said they loved networking. And so the networking challenge will show you how to find the right people, what to say, how to have those conversations, and even how to track. Again, it's like set up like a challenge. So you do one thing a day so that you can easily integrate it into your search. And then also, I wanted to give you guys the joy reset. So if you know me at all, you know that I'm really holistic. Of course, we're doing the strategies and we're doing the tactics and the mindset and the energy work. But the joy reset is to really get you in a good place energetically in the rest of your life because everything that you bring to every conversation, right, that can be felt. Um, so, all this to say, if you're ready to approach a job search differently and you want to do so in a way that's more strategic, it's more aligned, it's more effective. Like I said, my clients are landing jobs now, despite what we see out there. I would love to support you. And the bonuses and the discount will be good for 1 week from now. If you know you're in, you've been following me a while, or you're just digging what I'm saying, if you do sign up today, I am also going to give you a bonus of a private breathwork session. Among all the other things I do, we do breath work, which is a really great way to kind of get in your body and overcome kind of the sticky unconscious challenges. And if you don't know what that is, don't even worry. It'll just be a really fun treat. Okay, let me pause there. Are there any questions? I'm going to give you guys some links and then we'll go into Q&A. I'm going to give you links with the actual discount codes. So this is core. And then the VIP, so it's 500 off either. And I should also say, like, if talking about this, if you have questions and you're not sure if it's right for your situation, book a call. Let's talk. I will give you a link to my calendar as well. I don't have the weekends normally open, but if you want to talk, just reply to one of my emails and we'll find time this weekend. Okay, I think that's all you need for links. Um, let's go into some Q&A and coaching. I feel like we're really doing well on time. While you guys think about your questions, for those of you who are new to me, I'll give you just a really short intro. I normally do that at the beginning, but I was so excited. I like jumped into the content. I can't help myself. So I am Kristen Zavo. I know a lot of you here know me. I'm an executive coach. I'm a job search coach. I've been saying 10 years for the last 3 years, but now it's like 13 years. I've been coaching full time for the last 9 years since 2017. Is that right? Yes. And before that, I had a traditional corporate career. I spent 15 years in corporate and investment banking and finance. Then I made the pivot to marketing and strategy. I'm also the best-selling author of Job Joy, Your Guide to Success, Meaning, and Happiness in Your Career. And you do get that when you sign up for Find Your Job Joy. Of course, you're going to get a signed copy of Job Joy. My work has been featured in, all over the place, Real Simple, Huffington Post, Newsweek, Business Insider, Fortune, Forbes. And, I really, while I am obviously, you can tell very practical, right? And I love strategy. I love coming up with a plan so you know exactly what to do. I am also holistic because job search is one of the most vulnerable activities. It brings up all our stuff. Do you guys know what I mean? Right? It like confidence and imposter syndrome and, any fears we had that we won't even admit to ourselves, right? It's just a very vulnerable process. The act of putting ourselves out there and sometimes getting rejected, right? It really requires a lot of resilience and there's a lot of inner work that goes into it, right? And so my goal is that by the end of this, you don't just have, a job that you're going to like for the long run, but that you feel like a more confident version of yourself, right? I believe that, it's more important to have the right strategy over more effort, right? That, the perception of you is just as important, if not more than the qualifications, right? And that when you have the right structure and support, right, that's going to lead to speed in your search. Okay, so questions coming in, feel free to add them to the chat. Deanna says, how should we structure a networking call? So, Deanna, there is since you are in the program, I'll answer your question, but I want to point you to the informational interview training in Module 5, and that gives you the entire structure bit for bit. But what I will say is, even before you share about yourself, you really want to show up in leadership in these calls because when someone's having a conversation with you, whether they know you or whether this was a cold outreach or a referral, you want to make it clear from the beginning you're not wasting their time and you're not picking their brain. Please, guys, don't ever say that you want to pick someone's brain, right? And so from the beginning, you're reminding them how you met or what you're here to talk about. You're confirming the amount of time that you have to talk, whether it might be 20 minutes and they go, oh no, I've got the hour, no worry. Then you do share, right? And this is where I want you to have that elevator pitch down. What are you looking for? And like 5 sentences, who are you? What are you looking for? Right? And what's the credibility here? Right? Then you are planning 3 to 5 questions. And we talk about there's lots to go by, but depending on who you're talking to and what you most want to get from the call, having 3 to 5 questions at the ready. And then this is the key part. You have the questions, but what I don't want you to do in the networking conversations, when you're having a conversation with someone and they're answering, but you're not totally listening because you're thinking about what you're going to say next or what you're going to ask next. Your guys ever have that? Right? I want you to be so good at telling your story that you can actually be present with the other person. And that way, you can feed off what they share with you rather than just like going down a list like a salesperson. You ever get on a sales call and someone is just asking questions and it's like they didn't even listen to your answer from 1 or 2 ago? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? It's the worst, right? I don't want you to be that way in your networking calls. I want you to really be present. So you have the structure, you have the questions you're asking, but you're really allowing it to be a conversation. And then at the end, a couple like really fun tips are, turn this conversation into some other warm leads, ask them who else you should speak with, right? And really important there, you're saying who else, not do you know anyone, right? The language matters because it's more likely they're going to come up with someone, asking if you can stay in touch because hopefully you will. In the networking challenge, I talk about how to stay in touch and what to say, right? When you stay in touch with people. Um, but that would be a high level overview. But what I would say, Deanna, is watch the informational interview training. And then I actually have, and this might be of interest to anyone who also doesn't love networking, we have a bonus informational interview networking training where I literally answer all the questions and all the resistance around networking. Right? Is it worth it? Who do I talk to? How do I stay in touch? What if I'm doing it, it feels like I'm not getting anywhere? All of that. So if networking isn't your favorite thing, you're not alone. But as a fellow introvert, as someone who every job I've landed has been through a person, and get this, guys, it's been through a person I didn't know at the beginning of my search. Okay. So as an introvert who's landed all her jobs through networking and ended up getting it through people she didn't know at the beginning, I promise you I can teach you how to do it in a way that's as painless as possible. And where maybe you might even have just, I don't want to say fun, but you might enjoy yourself. Kind of like Kevin said, you might enjoy the one-on-one connection. Okay, let's see. Dr. Davia, as a seasoned person, should we redact some of our experience to seem more approachable? Less overqualified. They're going to leave in a year, which I might be overqualified, but I'm not going anywhere. So, what I would say is even more so than worrying about what you show on your resume, and I know all the career coaches only show 10 years, and sometimes that's okay. But what's even more important, right, is not trying to fool them that you're 35, right? But to get ahead of that potential objection. Remember, I asked you guys, why would a hiring manager hesitate to hire Jenny? Remember, I told you, I asked you that, and you said, well, maybe she wouldn't want a boss, or maybe because she had a gap, or her business, or blah, or she would leave. I want you to do that for yourself. And so in this case, right, if age is a consideration and you think that they might think, oh, she's overqualified and she's going to leave, or she's not 35, so who knows how long she's going to be here. I would get ahead of that in your stories, right? It's also true. Sometimes I have clients who they're in a season of life where they don't want to keep climbing the ladder, right? And so they have to overcome this idea that, yes, I would like a manager position when before I was a VP. So we need to think about what the hesitation could be, why it would be, and then get ahead of it in how we talk about ourselves. So you can talk about, this season of life and why you're excited about this role and the impact you could see you having when you're able to settle in for X number of years, right? And you're not even mentioning the objection, but you're weaving in your stories and your conversation where you're showing I'm here for the long run, right? As far as tactically what to do, again, it depends on the person. It depends on the job, right? Depends on who you're talking to at what level. But I would say for most of us who are seasoned, you know, 12 to 15 years is fine. 12, depending on where the natural start and stop of your jobs are. You could do 10 to 12 years, then you could put the rest of it in other experience. There's ways to do this, but again, it really depends on your situation. If you're making a pivot, right? The key is we're not cutting experience off our resume in order to fool someone because they're not foolable. If someone is ageist, they're going to Google you and they're going to find out your age, right? Some of you might have Googled me to find out my age. I'm 29 again. No, I'm kidding. But my point, right, is that, it's not to try to trick anyone, but rather say, if it's age or if it's overqualification, why would that be an issue? Because they think I'm going to leave or because whatever it is, and then get ahead of that in your stories. This is like the ninja move. Okay, hope that makes sense, Davia. And if you have follow up, let me know. Okay, Sylvia, when prioritizing networking outreach, who should more senior leaders focus on connecting with? So I like you can connect with people who are connected to the people you ultimately want to talk to, or connect with people who are connected to decision makers. Okay, who you're having conversations with is normally someone at your level or above, or someone who would be a colleague. So if I was looking for a marketing role, maybe I would talk to someone in sales, or maybe I would talk to a CMO, right? So talking to people who could be a potential hiring manager or a decision maker, those are all great ideas. Okay. Any other questions, thoughts? If you don't have any other questions, tell me your favorite takeaway from class today. That way it'll help cement it in your brain. Okay, let's see. Peggy, when the current title is director or management, but currently focused on wanting more of an individual contributor, how best to redirect that conversation? So first of all, I would try to have conversations about roles that you actually want versus applying to jobs, that are at management if you don't, if that's not what you want. But if someone asks you, right, you can just tell them, first of all, start with the truth, right? And then we'll kind of massage it in a way that sounds good to whoever you're talking to. But maybe it's, hey, I've been in management. I really enjoyed the coaching aspect. And in this season of life, I'm looking to be an individual contributor and, get to focus on my passion for XYZ work, which I wasn't able to do as much of, when I had to manage a team, right? So in other words, you want to put them at ease that this is what you actually want. Okay. Bye, Sylvia. Bye, Lori. Let's see, Jen, any suggestions on our LinkedIn if we have been generalists and adapt to a lot of different roles? You're welcome, Peggy. So when you've been a generalist, that's the best. We have like so much to work from. And so you're going to pull, and I talk about this in Job Joy. We have a whole section, on career story and your campaign. Also, it's in the LinkedIn challenge, but you're going to look at that job you're going after, right? Which we got from the clarity section. And you're going to pull out the relevant experience. You're going to flesh it out and you're going to de-emphasize the things that don't matter as much. So when I was switching from finance to marketing and strategy, I had a lot of fun financial certifications specifically for companies going through Chapter 11. I didn't highlight those because that was irrelevant and could be confusing or distracting to someone making a decision about whether they wanted to hire me for a strategy role at a retail company. So instead, what I did was I highlighted the strategy work I did on different consulting projects. I emphasized the couple of small retail projects that I had, even if it was a bit of a stretch. Like I emphasized the things that mattered. I put myself in the shoes of a hiring manager and said, of all my experience, of all my skills, of all my accomplishments and milestones, what matters most to them? What shows that I can do this job, right? What shows those transferable skills? And from there, right, we're kind of pulling together. And that's why the story is so great. And that's why we do the story even before your LinkedIn profile or your resume, is we look at, you know, pulling out the relevant information, de-emphasizing what's not relevant, and then connecting the dots in a way that shows that this path, even if it's non-traditional, actually is exactly what's going to help you be most successful in the role. And whether you are going for a similar role or you're pivoting or you're completely changing like I did, that is your responsibility. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. But we start with the story, and then, of course, everything else follows that on LinkedIn. And we go in that LinkedIn challenge, which you'll get. We go through each section of LinkedIn from your headline to your about section to your skills to your experience, etc. You're welcome. Okay. What are top takeaways from today? Let me know in the comments. What are you not going to forget? What are you going to do differently? Let me see who was listening. You can also unmute if you're done typing. But I want to hear what's going to change? What is your top takeaway from today? Because there's no point in going to the classes or watching the videos or whatever it is, right? If we're not going to change, right? If something doesn't change. Okay, Deanna, focus on networking and my journey as a differentiator. Yes, yes. No one can copy you. No one has your exact experience. No one has your exact energy, right? You even think about all the different career coaches, right? Even if they were saying the exact same things, they have a different feel, they have a different energy, and some we align with and some we don't. And some we say, I would like to work with them, and some we say, I'm not sure. It's no different in your job search. Even if people aren't articulating that out loud, it's no different. Okay, Jen, spend more time evaluating what aligns with the future I want so I can have a tight and compelling story. Yes. And that like buy-in actually starts with you. Even before we worry about how do we tailor that, how do we position that for the outside, I want you to feel confident that this is actually what you want. And we're not just doing the job search to get a job, right? Something I want you to know, job search is tough whether you go for a job you want or you go for a job that you don't want. You might as well go for the one you want. Okay, let's see. Liz, figure out what I want to be when I grow up. You know what I say, Liz? Don't grow up. I'm not planning on growing up anytime soon. And what you want gets to evolve with you as you grow. Even I've been doing career coaching for over a decade now, but the way that I teach, the type of clients that I work with, the level that we're at, it has all evolved as I've grown, right? And it's not even saying one is better than the other, but like part of the fun of life, right? Is rather than figuring out what I want to do when I grow up, what do I want to do next? Right? Let it be a little fun. Okay, Jen, I've received feedback that my resume was too personality driven, so now I'm considering how to blend the two. Yeah, I would want to know more about that, in like a one-on-one or a coaching perspective, what they meant by personality, and also it also depends on who was actually saying that. I had plenty of well-meaning people tell me that I could never make the switch when I was changing careers, and I said thank you and then moved on until I found someone who did hire me to make the switch. Okay, Kevin, it has to start with my clarity and it will come through in everything I do. Campaigns, networking, be more intentional. Yes, 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 yes. Everything, guys, starts with clarity. I have an executive coaching client. She's going to a conference and we're preparing for that. Even that starts with clarity. What are her goals for the conference? What does she want to get across? What is success, right? Before you go into anything, always start with clarity. Clarity, intention, how you want to feel, how you want to show up, what's going to make you proud. Okay, let's see. Recovering from burnout, tough situation has made it tough to assess what is trauma response versus what I want. Yeah, that's a lot of the work that we do. And when I say holistic, right, I share, I am a certified career coach, I'm a certified life coach, I've got lots of different certifications, but a lot of the work that I do is that holistic, is that mindset, is even and this is more for one-on-one, where we do the somatic work. And that's actually where breath work is a great way to kind of not intellectualize our bad experiences, but actually move them through the body so that we can move on and see where we've been operating from and what is our true authentic self versus what is the survival instinct, right? And that is a big part of the work we do. It's not something I lead with because just like we were talking about with positioning, people, unless they know that's what they need, right? They're not sure at the time, and we're also not going to find trauma. But if something is coming up, if you're continually getting stuck despite doing all the right things or something is wrong, it can be a really beautiful healing thing to do to integrate those parts of you so that you can see yourself and your desires clearly. So I'm glad you brought that up. We also have in Find Your Job Joy, I even have a class on grieving a past job or situation. That's really great. If there's something that happened that was traumatic at work, it can be a great start, and then we go deeper in the one-on-one time. Okay, let's see. Beautiful. Anything else before I let you guys go? Yes, I'm so glad you're into somatic and energy work. Yes, it's somatic work for, anyone who isn't familiar. It's the psychology of the body. We store so much emotion and so much thought and things we don't have the capacity for at the time. It's stored in the body. And the problem with, our current environment is that, we're all in our heads all day. Right. And we're not connected. And so we spin and we intellectualize, but then no change actually happens. And that's why it can be really great to have the integration of mind and body. Okay, fantastic work. Great to be with you today. If you have any questions, book a call, send me an email. I would love to see you inside Find Your Job Joy. And have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.